This short video will show you how to use Excel to work the problems in section 13.7. And the first problem I'm going to go over is the one that we went over in class, which was comparing the number of absences to the number of defective parts. And we went over this in the PowerPoint in class. I'm in the ebook right now. Here's the data set right here, and it has the number of days the workers were absent, and then the number of workers that were absent, and then the number of defective parts. So what I did in Excel is I went over and I put those data into the spreadsheet. And so one column is the absences right here, and the other column is the defective parts. All right, so what we did in class, one of the things we did in class was to figure out the correlation. And so in order to do that, actually first thing I did was do a scatter plot. So let's go ahead and do a scatter plot. So we're going to insert a scatter plot. All right, now sometimes when you first do this, it may not have it displayed the way you want, but this actually is the way we want it, because it's got along here was the number of workers absent, and then up here is the defective parts along this axis. And you know, we could pretty this up, give it a title, scatter plot. Actually, I got rid of the title that time, so let's just go back for a second. I could title it. I don't know why it's not cooperating to let me get the title in, but there we go, scatter plot. Okay, so there's my title. I don't usually like to have this in here, so I could delete that. There's a lot of options, but anyway, you get an idea. The other thing that you can do, which we're going to come to in a minute, is to go ahead and add a trend line, but I'm going to leave the scatter plot for right now because at this point we want to do the correlation. And so the correlation coefficient formula was pretty complicated, and if you remember, I told you it was pretty easy to do it in Excel. So go to a blank cell and type in an equal sign, and then up here you're going to get the formula function option, and you want to go down, and actually I've been using it recently, so it's pulled up there. It's called correlation, C-O-R-R-E-L, and you want to tell it the first array, so that's the first column, and then the second column, identify those values, and then just say OK. And so there's the correlation coefficient. When you do that, you want to make sure that you put a label. If you're using the spreadsheet, make sure you label what it is. So that's R. Remember, it's called R. All right, so the other thing that we can do with this is to find the line of best fit. And so if you remember, in Excel, we're going to go ahead and again, we're going to click on a new cell, and we're going to type in the equal sign, and we're going to go up here, and we're going to look for, it's called LINEST, so estimation of the line. It returns statistics describing the linear trend of the data points. So the y's go in first, so you put your y's in. Remember, we were doing the defective parts of the dependent, and then we're going to put the absences in as the x variable. And then you want to leave the last two options blank. And then what it's going to give you here, and remember we went over this in class, it's going to give you first the slope and then the y-intercept. So it doesn't come out in a real pretty form, but it comes out right over here. And then we also, so now we've got the line of best fit. So the slope is, so it's y equals 3.23 x plus 8.5152 as the y-intercept. All right, and we say OK. And unfortunately, it doesn't save it in a nice fashion. You kind of have to write it down as it's calculating it for you. And then if I want to add that trend line on there, let's go to back to the scatter plot. We've got it here already, and actually on one of the options, and I think it's on the layout menu. If you go over here on the layout menu, you can go ahead and add a trend line, and it'll add a linear trend line right here. Okay. And then it'll tell you there's the trend line, and that's real helpful to know. So we have the equation of the line, which we got earlier, if you remember back here. So if I go back and just hit an enter again, we've got the equation. Remember, it was 3.23 plus 8.51, and there's the way you do the scatter plot and add the trend line onto it. All right, I pulled up a problem to give you a similar problem from what you're going to see in your homework. Here's a problem here. 6 students provided the following data about the length of the time they had studied for an exam and the grades they got. So they want us to do some different calculations here. And the first thing is to do the correlation coefficient. So again, in my Excel sheet on another page, I went ahead and I typed in those values. Okay, so I put in the study time here and I put in the grade that they got. All right, and the first thing they want me to do is do the correlation. So I'm going to go ahead and put an R in here, and remember over here I do equal, and then pull up CORREL, tell it the two arrays, in other words the columns where the data is stored, and hit OK. And so there's our correlation coefficient, so pretty strong relationship between those two variables. And what else did they ask us to do? Determine, okay, you can do this using the table that I gave out in class, but now we want to find the equation of the line of best fit. Okay, so let's go back to our spreadsheet, and so we're going to go, remember we did equals, and then we did that LINEST, and you're going to put in the y's. Once we're going to put the y's in first, the x's in second, all right, and then just say OK. Let's take a look at it first before we lose it here. So the slope of the line is 0.72, let's say. I'm going to jot those down so I can type the equation in for you. So it's going to be y equals 0.72x plus 25.25. So there's our equation of our line, and again, unfortunately it doesn't store all that in there, but if you wanted to write it out, it would be y equals 0.72x plus 25.25. So there's the equation of the line that fits these two. And then we could also go ahead and insert a scatter plot. All right, and I didn't pick any data, so I need to go in and select the data for this. And I want to add in, let's see, that's the horizontal, so this is the vertical, so I want to put the grade over here. I think I made a mistake here. Okay, there we go. Here's the x values here. Okay, and then the y values are here. And hopefully this will come up right, which it doesn't look like it's doing. Let's see if it cleans it up a little bit. I don't think it is. All right, let me get rid of this and start again. Sometimes it just doesn't work out the way that you expect it. So let's cut that out. Okay, so let me go ahead and select the data first. It usually works better to do that. And then scatter plot. And then you just want to make sure that it's set out the way you think it was. So we had about a 22 with a 40. Yeah, this is right. So down here, and again, you might want to, on the layout page, add in some legends here, some axis titles, so primary, horizontal. We could put something below here. So this was the study time. Okay, and then you could also put an axis label on the vertical and rotate it, and we could put in grade. So pretty up your graph a little bit. And that's what it looks like. So hopefully this will help you get started on working with Excel to actually figure out the equation of the regression line, the correlation coefficient, and then to produce a scatter plot.